Zhang Hu did not leave with the others. He stood halfway between the platform and the stairs, held in place by the punishment he had not expected and the humiliation he could not swallow. His followers waited a short distance behind him. They no longer stood close enough to seem loyal. That small gap was one of the morning's more honest results. The stewards were busy clearing the square. Elder Gu and the white-haired elder inspected the spirit root pillar with the register open between them. Their attention was sharp but not fully on the disciples below. That created a narrow pocket where words could be exchanged without becoming official. Zhang Hu stepped into it. Lin Fan. His voice was lower now. Not because he had become calmer. Because he was afraid of being heard by the wrong person. Lin Fan turned slightly. The movement cost him. The root junction throbbed in protest. Heat had begun to gather beneath the skin around his lower abdomen. Fever was approaching faster than expected. The poison ring's jagged edges scraped against the open mark with each breath. He gave none of that to Zhang Hu. Your training yard access is suspended, Lin Fan said. Zhang Hu's eyes reddened. You did that. You did. The simplicity of the answer struck cleanly. Zhang Hu's fists clenched. Then he remembered the elders behind them and forced his hands open. In the first life, this was the kind of moment where Lin Fan would have felt satisfaction. A bully cornered by authority. A small justice. A bruise answered by public shame. That earlier self had still believed reversal meant emotional balance. The returned Lin Fan saw something more practical. Zhang Hu was unstable. Unstable men could be bait, warning, or waste. He had a mid-grade mixed root, poor discipline, and enough resentment to make stupid decisions. The suspension of training yard access would push him toward private retaliation before the discipline review. If Lin Fan needed a reason to enter certain restricted side paths, or if he needed Zhang Hu to expose a steward's corruption, the man could still be used. Do not break the tool before assigning its use. Zhang Hu leaned closer. Do not think one strange test makes you someone. Lin Fan looked at him. You already thought I was no one. Zhang Hu's mouth tightened. And yet you keep explaining my place to me. The follower nearest the stairs heard that and lowered his head quickly to hide his expression. Zhang Hu saw the movement from the corner of his eye. His shame deepened. You think I am afraid of you, he whispered. Yes. No hesitation. Zhang Hu's breath caught. Lin Fan took one step closer. That step was dangerous. The body wanted to waver. He locked the knees just enough to appear steady and let the sleeve hide his right hand, which had begun to tremble from meridian strain. Zhang Hu did not see the weakness. He saw only Lin Fan closing distance after a morning that no longer made sense. You are not afraid because I am stronger, Lin Fan said quietly. I am not. Zhang Hu stared at him, confused by the admission. You are afraid because you do not know what happened. You touched the pillar and received exactly what you expected. I touched it, and your understanding of me failed. Zhang Hu swallowed. Men like you can endure enemies, Lin Fan continued. You cannot endure uncertainty. Zhang Hu's face twitched. The words were too precise for an outer disciple. He felt that without knowing how to name it. His mind tried to reject them as arrogance, but the morning had weakened easy rejection. Shut up, he said. Lin Fan's voice lowered further. After noon, you will report to the discipline steward. You will say the meal hall dispute was small. You will blame youthful temper. You will not mention this conversation. You will not try to strike me before your review. Zhang Hu's eyes widened with anger. You give me orders now? No. Lin Fan let the pause settle. I tell you which path leaves you with fewer losses. For a moment, Zhang Hu looked ready to attack despite everything. Lin Fan watched his shoulder, wrist, and breath. If he struck, Lin Fan had one usable response. Shift left. Let the first grab take cloth. Use the injured wrist nerve. Step inside. drive knuckle under the ribs. Not enough to win a prolonged fight. Enough to make Zhang Hu gasp loudly. The elders would turn. Zhang Hu would be finished. The plan was ugly because the body was weak. It would work. Zhang Hu's right hand twitched. Lin Fan did not move. The stillness did more than a flinch would have. Zhang Hu looked into his eyes and, for one breath, saw again the impossible cold that had touched him outside Lin Fan's door. A hall. A throne. A mountain without wind. His mind rejected the image instantly, but rejection did not erase the body's answer. His hand stopped. He stepped back. It was only half a step. But his followers saw it. So did Lin Ro from the stairs. So did one steward carrying a stack of minor registers. Zhang Hu realized it at once. His face went from red to pale. Lin Fan did not smile. Smiling would turn the moment into a contest. Instead, he turned away. The dismissal completed the cut. Zhang Hu stood behind him, breathing hard, unable to attack, unable to speak, unable to reclaim the shape of himself that had existed before sunrise. Lin Fan walked toward the shade near the platform. His body punished him for the movement. Heat surged from the root junction to the chest. He tasted blood again. A drop nearly reached his lips. He caught it under the tongue and swallowed. The right arm had gone cold from shoulder to fingertips. The palm that touched the pillar felt hollow, as if something had scraped the inside of the bones. Not enough time. He needed medicine. Not official medicine. Official medicine came with examination, records, and questions. He needed low-grade cleansing herbs from the outer storage or herb garden, preferably before Elder Gu sealed him inside a side hall and had someone probe his root with crude qi. The herb garden duty assigned to Lin Ro flickered through his mind. Not now. She had not yet received access. Other options. Outer storehouse afternoon, crowded, watched. Meal hall kitchen, source of contamination, likely still holding low-quality root powder and heat-clearing leaves. Abandoned spirit mine, too far while injured. Medicinal pool beneath third outer mountain, impossible before night without preparation. A junior steward implicated in yesterday's dismissed complaint, vulnerable, may carry keys or access tokens. Useful. Lin Fan stood beneath the platform shade and let his breathing slow. Behind him, Elder Gu spoke. Bring the register here. The steward obeyed. The white-haired elder said, This is not merely contamination. The words were soft but audible to Lin Fan's sharpened attention. Elder Gu replied, The pillar registered a root response climbing from low-grade to unstable mid-grade under pressure. Contamination can obscure grade. Obscure, yes. Transform during reading, no. Then what do you suggest? Either the entry screening missed something, or the root was altered recently. Elder Gu's gaze moved toward Lin Fan's back. Lin Fan kept his posture unchanged. Recently. The word was dangerous. The white-haired elder continued, He was injured yesterday. A bruise on the arm does not alter a spirit root. No. But severe shock, hidden medicine, or external tampering might disturb a contaminated root. You think someone used him? I think an outer disciple does not change this much overnight without cause. Lin Fan's eyes lowered slightly. There was the episode's true hook arriving early. Someone had said the shape of the danger aloud. He did not know which elder would pursue it more aggressively yet. Elder Gu wanted usable value. The white-haired elder wanted explanation. Both could become problems. Both could become shields if guided properly. A steward approached Lin Fan. Elder Gu says you are to remain nearby. Lin Fan nodded. I heard. The steward hesitated. Most outer disciples would have been shaking with either fear or excitement. Lin Fan was neither. The steward's eyes moved over him, pausing at the pale face and tied sleeves. Are you well? Root pain. The steward stepped back half a pace. Not from compassion. From discomfort. Root pain sounded like something that could create responsibility if mishandled. Lin Fan used the opening. May I rinse my mouth? Your mouth? Blood taste. The steward's face changed. He glanced toward Elder Gu, but the elders were bent over the pillar record, speaking through transmission again. The steward did not want to interrupt them for a disciple requesting water. He also did not want the disciple marked for examination to spit blood onto the platform stones under his watch. There is a water jar by the side hall, he said. Do not go farther. Lin Fan bowed slightly. Yes, steward. Permission acquired. Small. Enough. He walked toward the side hall at an even pace. Zhang Hu watched him go. The bully's confidence had not vanished completely. Such men rarely broke in one morning. But it had lost its natural posture. He now had to choose arrogance consciously, and conscious arrogance tired quickly. Lin Fan passed Lin Ro near the stairs. She looked as if she wanted to speak, then remembered the elders and said nothing. Good. He had no room for kindness offered at the wrong time. At the side hall, a clay water jar stood beneath a wooden awning. Lin Fan took the ladle, rinsed his mouth, and spat red into the dirt behind the jar where no one in the square could see. The blood steamed faintly. Root heat rising. He rinsed once more, then looked at the reflection in the ladle. 16-year-old face. Pale. Calm. No longer worthless. Not yet powerful. Perfectly dangerous if handled correctly. The reflection wavered in the curved water. For a moment, the face seemed to overlap with another, older, colder, framed by loosened hair and blood beneath a red sky. The execution blade was gone. The throne was gone. The mountain was gone. But the eyes were the same, and that mattered more than flesh. Lin Fan tilted the ladle and let the image break. He would not worship his former self. The immortal sovereign had died because he had allowed certain hidden variables to remain beneath notice for too long. Strength had solved almost everything until the few things it did not solve gathered together. If this new life became only a climb back to the same throne, then death had taught him nothing. This beginning required different habits. Less display. Earlier correction. More use of small people before they became large threats. More suspicion toward mysteries that arrived as opportunities. The observer's ring remained quiet, but Lin Fan felt the shape of its quiet. It waited at the edge of his awareness like colorless frost. The test had given it what it wanted, divergence. A weak root had shifted. A bully had stepped back. Elders had begun investigating. The old path had not shattered outward, it had bent. Let the observer measure the bend. Lin Fan would measure the observer's patience. He set the ladle down. Behind him, a faint scrape of shoe against stone announced that someone had followed partway down the side path. Not Zhang Hu. Too light. Lin Ro stood near the corner, half hidden by the wall, clutching the strap of her satchel. She looked as if she regretted coming the moment he saw her. You are bleeding, she said softly. Lin Fan looked at her. Kindness at the wrong time. Exactly as expected. No, he said. Her eyes dropped to the dirt behind the jar, where the diluted red had not fully soaked in. She did not argue. That was why she had survived longer than other kind people in the first life. Her kindness did not make her completely stupid. The elders are looking at the pillar, she said. If you need help, the herb garden has cooling leaves. I do not have access yet, but afternoon. Do not involve yourself. The words were quiet. They struck her anyway. Lin Ro's face paled a little. I know. That stopped her more effectively than anger. Lin Fan turned back toward the square. Kindness without strength becomes evidence others use against you. Leave before someone notices you speaking to me. Lin Ro stared at him. The words were too cold for gratitude and too practical for insult. She did not know where to place them. Finally, she lowered her head and stepped back. Then, be careful. She left quickly. Lin Fan watched her go for one breath. A variable remained a variable. Lin Ro's interruption had been small, but it confirmed an old pattern. She moved toward wounds before calculating whether the wound belonged to danger. In a kinder world, that would have made her admirable. Azure Cloud's sect was not kind. Here, compassion without power became a handle others could grip. Zhang Hu would use it if he noticed. Stewards would use it if she received herb garden access. Elders might use it later if they needed someone gentle near Lin Fan to see what force could not. He would need to decide whether to cut that handle away, harden it, or let others reach for it and lose fingers. Not today. Today, she had seen blood and offered information. That gave her a place on the board, but not yet a role. From the square, Zhang Hu's voice rose briefly, then died under a steward's reprimand. Lin Fan did not need to hear the words. He knew the rhythm: protest, reminder, swallowed anger. Zhang Hu's day had become a net of small humiliations. The more he struggled, the more each strand tightened. Good. The best enemies were not the ones immediately destroyed. They were the ones maneuvered into revealing the hands above them. Zhang Hu would not think of himself as connected to anyone above him. That was another weakness. Men who bullied downward often imagined themselves independent because they mistook permission for power. Zhang Hu stole rice because kitchen stewards allowed it, trained harder because yard stewards favored him, threatened weaker disciples because disciplined stewards ignored complaints. Each permission was a hook. Pull Zhang Hu hard enough, and the hooks would show. Lin Fan needed those hooks before the sect's investigation cleaned them away. So Zhang Hu had to remain angry. Not destroyed. Angry men pulled against their own hooks. Frightened men checked the knots. Zhang Hu had to remain the first kind for a little longer. Later, when anger ripened into action, Lin Fan would decide whether to dodge, redirect, or invite the strike. For now, letting Zhang Hu stew was more useful than defeating him. An immediate victory would end the morning's tension too neatly. Lin Fan wanted loose ends. Loose ends drew hands. Hands revealed owners. Behind him, the elders continued to investigate the pillar. Lin Fan set the ladle down without a sound.